No, play that country. Come on, let me do a dedication.
That's Alan Jackson, right?
That's right. I'm doing a dedication here to the one and only Jerry, gorgeous. And, of course, the entire show is dedicated to Tara. I hope someday.
I don't think she likes country western music.
Oh, she likes everything. Now, wait till she comes in and meets Justin. She's got a boyfriend, Bryce. But
she had one. She had a boyfriend.
Wait till she meets Justin, my producer. I'll break up that relationship. All right, my very special guest. I just love him being in the studio, and we have coffee a couple times a week. He is the head women's basketball coach and coach of the year at College of the Canyons. And 23-5, you're going to the playoffs. I'm done talking about basketball. Let's talk about something that is really upsetting to me. In our society, it's interesting. Do you think athletes, how do I want to ask the question? If you stay busy Justin, have you ever done drugs? You've never done drugs, have you?
No.
But so I say this, parents, get your kids out of the house. We here in the Santa Clarita Valley, Southern California, we have a drug problem, man. We do.
We do.
And you must experience this on college campuses. You must see it, right?
Well, I was a high school teacher, remember, for 37 years.
What did you
in the
teach?
Heart District.
What did you teach?
U.S. history.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding.
That was my favorite subject.
And you would have liked my class.
Oh, can we get me back in your classroom?
You know, I loved to teach. I wish I was still doing it. I just the nonsense.
You and I are both patriots, and when you studied history, you were a history teacher, and history was always my favorite subject. And our generation, we fell in love with this country because we knew the sacrifices. I always go back to the Civil War. Unbelievable. Yeah. The loss of life in the Civil War. The loss of life in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam. Men and women have given everything for this country. And for not to honor these vets is... I'm getting off on a tangent.
You and I come from the Vietnam era where they did the same thing. You know, when the guys came back, people spit on them, and I one of the great moments of my life, I was in the Atlanta airport, and there were some Army soldiers. They were going on Hartsfield. They were going somewhere, on a plane.
Yeah.
And they got up and they started walking towards the plane, with their packs. They had in camo. Yeah. And the people gave them a standing ovation.
There you go.
I started crying.
Yeah.
I started crying.
I'm going to choke up now. This show's about sports today on The Business of Life. Coach Tunick here with you, with another coach, the Coach of the Year, Mr. Gregory Herrick. So how can we make a difference in our community here in Santa Clarita in Southern California? Is there any way that we can help kids? I mean, if you and I went out and talked to kids, they're not going to listen to us, right?
Well, I think they, in my experience as an educator, if you don't talk down to them and you use a sense of humor, which kids appreciate, and you come in that direction. Not that you're lecturing them about.
What if we gave them a spanking at school like we got? Didn't you get hit? I did.
Oh, I got that at home.
Where did you go to high school?
Bishop O'Dowd.
Oh, that's right, in Oakland. I got hit. I don't know. The LA School District in the early '60s hit you.
Right.
My coaches, and I was a problem kid. I had no father, foster kid. And they knew. So I learned discipline at how to say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and so forth and so on. Where's the discipline? You're over there at College of the Canyons.
I think the discipline is at home. And when there's no discipline,
half the homes are broken, Coach.
That's the problem. There's your problem right there. I taught at Bowman High School, which is a continuation school in the William S. Hart District for two sets of 9 years, so 18 years altogether. So if anybody knows about, kids, I do, because, there's not a lot of them there, and you get to know them and so on and so forth. I could tell you the prototype Bowman student was from a broken home. I mean, it was just
sad, and
that's where it starts. And I think we have to be more interested. And my parents both came from broken homes, and my dad was the greatest man I ever knew. And my mom raised 5 kids, and they're all great. But because there was discipline in the home, we were talking about parents doing kids. We were in a restaurant, my wife and I, and some kid was getting, what do they call it, the home study stuff, and the mom was doing the homework, and my wife turns to me, she says, "Did your parents ever do your homework?" I go, "They didn't even know that I had homework. But if I didn't turn it in, and the school called my house."
Why can't? Is society so stupid? Are people so selfish? These iPhones and these droids and the parents are more preoccupied with getting Facebook likes than raising their kids. I mean, somewhere this is either going to stop, or we're going to lose our country.
There's a disconnect out there between parents and their kids.
They don't want to be parents. That's right. Good point, Coach. Yeah. They want to be their friends. Right. Good point.
And I know that from, I told my son one time, I saw him out one night. It was about 10 o'clock, and he and his friends were, my son, the football player, he's disciplined as he gets. He's out there at 10 o'clock with his friends by the community pool, and I roll up there, and I roll down the window, and I go, "You tell your friends that I'm going to go home right now and call the sheriff and tell them that there's kids on curfew violation out of and he backs away from the car and he goes, "What kind of dad turns his own kid into the sheriff?" And I go, "This one."
A loving dad.
I go, "This one." And then as I drove away, they all scattered. So
the peer group pressure. Justin, grab a microphone because you're a young guy. How did you avoid the peer group pressure? How did you turn out to be such a nice young man?
I mean, I still fell in some respects,
But you're not a drug addict. You're not an alcoholic. You have a responsible job. You care about life. I mean, you're a solid kid. How did you? You must have learned how to say no. Come on.
Luck of the draw. Oh, definitely. But it's the luck of the draw, man. I'm proud that my mom raised me right. I don't know. I think it still comes down to that.
Was there discipline in your home?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Coach, when my mom used to say this when I was in school, show me your friends, and I'll show you who you are. And I used to think that was a bunch of nonsense.
Well,
till I got to be an adult, and I made an educator in schools, and show me who your friends are, and you're going to be doing what they do.
Well, the old saying, you are who the 5 people you hang with. So that's why I don't want to get into it. But who we're having coffee with, that's going to change. That's going to think about that. I
am thinking about it.
No, we're gonna switch that up.
We're going to change the world, the coffee world.
He's the head. That's right. He's the head women's basketball coach in the championship round. They're going to play Palomar Friday. So maybe next week I'll have him call in and we'll find out. So how many games do you have to win in the NC2A March Madness? You only have to win, I think, 5 games to be the champion. How many do you have to win?
We have to win 5.
Oh, you do?
So this is our
what's Palomar's record?
22 and 4.
So they're legit.
Oh, way.
Now, do they have like a 6'9"?
No, they don't. And I just watched film on them just before I came over here. That's. You and I were going to have lunch, and I said I had something to do.
Right. Can we talk about hustle for a second? So, John, I know you weren't a John Wooden fan.
No, how can you not be? The guy won 12 national championships.
No, but I put him on a pedestal. You don't.
No, I don't do that.
You put Mike Krzyzewski on a pedestal.
He had the best players in America.
So, John Wooden, I read all his books. I met him. He was involved with Kalu many times, and I talked to him, and I said, "Coach, tell me what you're doing a little bit differently." And he would say back to me, "Coach," he said, "I never focused on the score."
Right.
He said, "I wanted my players to get very, very good at shooting free throws. I wanted my players to be in better shape at the end of the 4th quarter." So he focused on all the techniques of winning. And it took care of himself. Now, he didn't never said this to me, but you and I both know that he recruited some of the best players in the country. So come on, talent in sports, talent's everything, right?
It is. It's probably 80% of it. I mean, the deal in those days, every good player in America wanted to play at UCLA.
Yeah, that's true.
And most of them.
And every player wants to play at College of the Canyons now.
Now, well, I wish they would.
Justin wants to jump in.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing because women's basketball's a little differently. It's the same thing at, say, UConn. The best players in the country go to UConn.
That's
why Gino has won what, 5 or 6?
Yeah, and you know, you're right, and it all goes back to it's got to start somewhere, and it starts with the coach, who sets the table, the philosophy of the program, and recruits that very first quality player.
God bless you. 24 years at College of the Canyon. Are you getting tired? Are you bored, burned out, sick of it?
Somebody asked me. I did an interview this morning for the magazine, and the guy says, "How long you?" You know, it's funny. They didn't used to always ask me this question. How long are you going to do this? Which the implication is you've been doing it. Yeah, you're old.
You're old.
And I always tell them, I go, yeah, you know, you're right. When my dad turned 60, I thought he was old, real old.
Yeah.
So when I turned 60, it kind of scared me. You know, I go, now I'm old. But
60's not old.
No, it isn't.
60.
Not today.
90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The essence of what I do and the purpose that I've decided this is what I'm going to be, and I'm an educator at first and foremost. So when I teach kids how to do certain things, I got a kid. This is a story that happened. My brother-in-law works for Lexus. He's a big executive with the Lexus Motor Company, and his wife, my sister, called me up the other night. She said, "Hey, you remember your player Ashley Mason?" And she was a player that played for me. And she still holds the record for most ejections from practice, you know, because she was goofing on.
I kicked her off.
And she went on to San Diego Christian, which is a school down there, and played there. And anyway, her mom works at Lexus. So she came into my brother-in-law's office. She said, "Tell Coach that Ashley just got her master's degree, and she wanted Coach to know if she hadn't been involved with him at COC, this all would have never happened."
Isn't that great? I mean, just that story on your resume, and when you go to sleep tonight, that's awesome, Coach.
Hey, I you know, just another sidelight on that. I did a TV show here in town with Tammy Edwards, and she was one of my ex-students at Hart High School. And I did the show because I had won my 500th game, and they were celebrating.
You won 500 games
at COC.
That's unbelievable.
That's not any of the other.
I mean, that is. I got to give you a compliment. Here's like a one-handed clap.
All right, there you go. Thank you. That's more than I usually get.
500 games. You got to be kidding me. Are you really 95?
No. So Tammy was my ex-student. We get on the set, and we're talking. And she goes into how she was in my class, and she was thinking of dropping out of school, and how you know embracive I was of her to continue on and do, and how important that was to her. She starts crying. She brings out a picture of the two of us. Yeah. You know, it was 30 years ago. Yeah. And you'd never know. That's the greatest thing about my job. You never know what impact you have on a human being's life.
You know, but a really good coach doesn't care, because your job is not to get the pat on the back. Your job is to keep doing what you do great. Let me go back to, you were a history teacher. Favorite part of history? Favorite?
Oh, there's no question. The American Revolution. Now, that was my thing. The American Revolution and contemporary U.S. history.
Three people that aren't with us anymore on this earth that you'd like to have dinner with, all at the same time.
Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And probably Irvin Magic Johnson, because he was always cool to me, and I liked him. And
you met him?
Yeah, I worked for him.
Oh, no kidding.
I ran his.
Why don't you big time me now, huh?
I ran his basketball camps.
He's big timing me, Justin.
And Justin, if you come in my office at COC, there's a picture of me.
I'm coming over to your
Irvin
office
Johnson
next week.
And Micah Ullman, who does the news for KTLA.
Yeah.
You've heard of him? He was my ex-player at Hart. We went to the Lexus Club at the Staples Center and had cocktails. Yeah. Magic. I don't even call him Magic. I call him Irvin.
LeBron's my favorite of all time, and then Magic is my number 2.
Irvin Johnson just makes you feel like a better person when you're around him.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that very few people have the skill to do.
In our first segment, we were talking about the next guy. We won't see the likes of him for a long, long time.
No, and he was another example.
Look what he's done with his life.
Yeah, he's a mega businessman.
Yeah, look what he's done with his life.
I saw him in Fatburger one time, and I go, "Hey, Irvin, you shouldn't eat that stuff." And he goes, "I don't, but I got to do it every now and then.
History. You and I grew up with loving this country because we took a lot of history. We had great teachers. So I'm wondering today, do you think that teachers are doing what they needed to do? Because I don't know if these kids are sold on America, man. They're not. You're shaking his head no.
Well, and I don't speak for everybody, but the majority of educators in schools today come from a liberal point of view. So that's the point of view you're getting in the classroom. The teacher's point of view is the one.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being a liberal. Liberals can love this country too. The liberals can have a respect for our soldiers and our veterans.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Don't start knocking liberals on my show. We call The Business of Life. I love liberals as long as they'll vote for Donald Trump.
And some of my liberals, I have liberal friends, and we've made a living discussing things. But what I'm saying is, the values that are going out there from the lectern are different than from the other. Liberals think government's the answer, and conservatives think business is the answer. Well, they think we are the answer, that people know better. So, but we're not. We don't do a political show here. No, we're not. And we're not going to do a political show. We're going to take a break. Come back with Coach of the Year, Greg Herrick. Who's going to Friday night you play, and then if you win Friday night, then what happens? We play the following. I think it's Tuesday. Do we ever have a home game here? No, you're kidding me. We thought with our record and our... You're Coach of the Year. What happened? People, I told you, the crickets start chirping when my name comes up. We'll be right back on the show we call The Business Life. Justin produces the show and is doing a great job. We'll be right back. Let's play some country. Come on. Dedication to my gorgeous wife, Ellen, who would never listen to my show. And my daughter, Robin, Robin, she's having a birthday. Happy birthday, girl. She's not listening either. And who else can I dedicate? To Tara. Tara, your friend. Your new girlfriend, maybe. If she dumps Bryce, you're in, buddy. So only have a couple of minutes left with the Coach of the Year, and one of the finest men I've ever met. Also, plug, if you're not listening to KHTS, or you are listening, tell your friends. This is a station that does so much for the community. The owners of the station are, well, they've been man and woman of the year, but they're a lot of humility. They don't go pound their chest, and they're not out there like Donald Trump. But let me tell you what, KHTS does a heck of a job for this community here in Southern California, in the Santa Clarita Valley. So, Coach, let's talk just for a second about history. Your favorite Civil War founding fathers, and we have a situation right now where if you asked, well, I did ask him, I don't know if he remembered, but if you went up to most 18-year-olds that can vote and said, name our 2 U.S. senators in the state of California, they couldn't do it. No. And this is not good. They could if they had been in my class. Yeah. See, it's all on the priorities of what you do. But you're telling me that's a priority. I agree with you. So when I taught my class, I made sure everybody knew that. And if my students were to walk in here right now, they would tell you that. Mr. Herrick made us remember the day. Remember when we were in school, we had to memorize the capitals of every state. Yeah, and the Gettysburg Address. And they don't make kids do that anymore. So how would a kid? Everything is learned. Don't you agree? Everything is learned. Yeah. Everything is learned. So you learn to love this country. You don't grow up. Right. You don't come out of the womb going, "I love America." Well, it's like anything. When you grow up. I grew up in Oakland, California. It's a multi-diverse community. I'm going to have you back and talk about that. Let me shotgun some. I shouldn't use the word shotgun. Let me ask you some quick. You're trying to rub the Oakland part in? Favorite sport that you like to watch? Coach Herrick. Football. Okay, college or pro? Either. Why weren't you a football coach? Because we didn't have football at Bishop O'Dowd High School until my senior year. God, we're running out of time. I got to have you back on the show, but we got away from Babyville. I'm going to have you back in a couple weeks and talk about the dumbing down of every sport and the fact that pro football, it'll be flag football in 20 years. Flag football. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm glad both my sons played football, that they were able to walk away with their facilities.
They're
intact.
okay, but sports does something that I don't think that anything else does. It teaches people how to not quit. It teaches fellowship. It teaches social skills. It teaches discipline. There's so much that goes on in sports. Even if your kid's not a great athlete, get them into some program.
Right. No,
right?
I agree.
Don't you agree?
I'm 100% on board with that.
No, I know you are. That's Coach Herrick, ladies and gentlemen, the coach of the year. Let's all wish him luck, because this Friday he's going to San Diego to play Palomar Community College. They've got 22 wins under their belt. Are you concerned? What's your gut feeling about Friday night?
Well, historically, speaking of history, the seeds follow their order.
You're a ninth seed,
and they're an 8 seed, and also home court advantage is big in the playoffs.
Oh, no question.
So we're way against the wall, our backs to the wall on this.
This is why I'm saying the girls got to come loose. If you can have a party going down on the bus, the girls got to show up. They got to have fun. If they have fun, they'll win the game.
Well, if we shoot 45% or 50%,
don't put any pressure on them. Tell them to go out there and do playground basketball. We have to go, Justin. Playground basketball. That's how, if I was coaching
that's
them,
how I learned how to play, by the way.
but that's how they all learned how to play.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No. The kids of this community?
No.
There's no playgrounds to go to play.
Oh. You and I grew up on playgrounds. Yeah. Well, let's figure out how we can get them loose and use their God-given skills to win this game on Friday night.
Well, I will tell them this afternoon when I meet them for practice. I'm going to do my very best to prepare you to be successful in this game. Mm-hmm. Now, you have to prepare yourself. And if I always tell them, don't be afraid. Because fear is for people that aren't prepared.
They're correct.
And if you are prepared to play, and there's nothing that they're going to do that you're not ready to deal with, everything should be cool. You should be relaxed and do your job. And that's the only thing we can do now. Unfortunately, it's going to be it's going to be a tough task. They're really good, and their coach is good. And
well, after you win the state championship, can you come back on my show?
Take you on the party bus.
No, I'd love it.
We go to Las Positas for the state championship in Livermore, California.
I'll be there, buddy.
I'm returning to the hood.
I'll be there. Let's play a little country music. Let's take everybody out with a little country music.
Down no mirror.
This is my favorite song.
Don't really tell the whole truth.
Have you listened to the words of this song?
I've heard this.
Show what's deep inside.
This is your troubadour.
Mm-hmm.